Hi, I am CagerOnTwoWheels and I am at Lombas e Curvas to test ride the SYM HD 300s. So first things first, this is actually the importer's bike. It's not from this dealership, which is awesome, so I'm going to get to keep this one for a couple of days. Thank you to you guys for your support, especially from the Portuguese side, because they get the feedback on the dealers, which allows me to now at least have one working contact with an actual importer and not just a dealership. So onwards, let's go quick front to back. Specs are on screen, I hope. You have a lot of specs. This is a completely redesigned from the ground up SYM HD 300. If you're familiar with the previous model, it has nothing to do with this one. So this one has a tall wheel, which in Portugal is unsellable for some odd reason. So it's a big wheeled scooter, 16-inch rim with 110 at the front, 16-inch at the rear with 140 width tire. You've got your standard scooter suspension, which ends here, so it's like this big only. You've got mesh front brake, cables, wires, I don't know, but you know what I mean. This shouldn't be here. There it shouldn't be, but I'll kick it out afterwards. ABS front and rear, because it's mandatory in the EU. You've got some LED presence lights, what we call them, low beam minimums we also call them, but you know what, this is daylight running lights. That's what these are in LEDs. They look pretty freaking cool on the rear view mirrors of cars. You've got a pretty solid and strong low beam, which is on the topmost part of the bike, which is good for visibility. Damn, that's bright. Geesh. Okay. Then, moving backwards, you have a pretty cool dash. It's got a few details I really like. For example, this button, which can be a completely mundane button. If you look at, say, a KTM, not on KTM. KTMs also like to do that pretty. But look at this. This is a perfectly normal button. Look at this SYM. Perfectly normal button. This is a fancy button. It's got a specific shape. It looks really cool. This is well designed. It's got this nifty little brown color on the handles. This is designed. It's a pretty bike. I like it. I like it quite a lot. It has a good look. The seat looks great. It's just the same thing as all other seats, but it's brown. It just gives it a bit of pizzazz. Then you've got this little cubby hole here, which opens like this. It's not lockable, but you've got a little USB port here and enough space for nearly a hand. It's not very big, but it's enough for your wallet or your cell phone and to keep it charging. That's the fuel tank. Obviously, I'm going to open the seat now. Very intuitive. You just have to rotate it and it's done, I think. Hey, I made it the first. Okay. I pushed it down. That's not how you do it. Just twist it. This inner bag is mine because this is useful for work. I'm going to keep this for a few days, so I need this to take my shoes to work. And this is the inner bag for a V46 or 46 liter Givi bag. So 46 liters with this fully extended. And as you can see, it nearly fits in here. Okay, so this is not 46 liters, but it's close. I would say about around 40. Okay, so it fits a full helmet, and you have some space. For example, helmet and gloves will fit here perfectly. Helmet and jacket, not quite, but here it does give you a stock thing for your top case, which is under this plate. So you can put a top case here if you need even more space. Pretty cool. Continuing backwards, this is the big disadvantage of big wheeled scooters, because this space is usually smaller. And this one isn't that small. It still works. It's still pretty big. Now, because they kept your normal dual shock suspension at the rear instead of trying a monoshock, which occupies a lot of space over there. So you've got your rear ABS, the rear brake hydraulic tube is also in mesh. You got your center stand, and the rest is relatively normal. Full LED at the rear, except for the indicators. All the indicators are halogen, yes, or filament bulbs, and not LEDs. And that's just about it. Sorry for the long time, but for scooters, this practicality aspect is very important. But we're here to see it run, and so let's run. Ah, the test track. I fully expect this to work horribly there. Yeah, I'm going to have to overtake these guys. So let's start with an overtake. Go, 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 go. This is not fast enough. This was pretty close. So I fully expect this to be horrible here, okay? Scooters are generally, well, not really that good. Except those that are specifically made to be sporty. And yeah, it's just not the same thing. But this one actually works. There's something weird with cornering here. At me, there's something weird with this one on cornering here. In city it's fine. On the more open roads, oh yeah, okay. So what happens is it's very light when you try to lean it over. It's very, very light. But then it sticks. But the first lean in, it's a bit odd. Tries to lean more than you would expect. It's not catastrophic, it's not something that's outright dangerous, it's just a thing. It's a scooter, it's not designed for this. Does it work here? Yes, yes. Can you go cross country on this? Let's say you want to do a 300-kilometer trip. Just avoid the highways unless you have a big windscreen. But if you want to do 300 kilometers of this, it'll work. It'll not be the best one, but it'll work. It's kind of like bringing a Ninja to in town. Does a sport bike work in town? Yes, of course it does. Is it the best bike to be in town on? No. So, will this work on these twisties? Yes. Is it the best to be in these twisties? No. It is clearly designed to be agile at slower speeds. In these more open, higher speeds, not very convinced, but that's not the point, okay? I was expecting this to be bad, and well, it's not bad, it's serviceable, okay? It works, it's fine. And then you are presented with this magnificent view. Wow. This road makes all bikes look great, okay? But yeah, it works, it works. It's not perfect, but that's exactly what I was expecting. I wasn't expecting awesomeness, but it's fine. For example, some of the competition, which is more expensive than this one, it's also a smaller wheel from a big Japanese brand. I'm not going to say it because it's not very polite to talk directly of the competition, but it's a Japanese brand with two very similar bikes that I tried here, and I was pretty disappointed. They kind of just not worked, okay? And I was expecting more. This one is clearly a city bike, and it just works as expected. Okay, it's not a problem. It just, you're not going to be knee scraping on this, but then again you will not want. Where this excels is here. Yeah, this works pretty well. As well as many big bikes, better than some, well, worse than others obviously, but yeah, this is pretty cool. It's pretty, I like it when you can see that what this bike was designed for, and it is actually designed for that, and it just works doing that thing it is designed for, in town commuting, and it's still kind of serviceable for the rest. Now, we are going to take it even more out of its element, and here it is supposed to be bad, and we're going to do the part of the test track that is faster. Fast 80 kph long turns, and I fully expect this to be horrible there, because this is exactly what it is not designed for. It's got small suspensions, got big wheels, thin wheels, it's tall, so this is going to be a real problem now. Let's see. I hope to be pleasantly surprised, okay? I really do. What is this guy doing? If you're going to do it, wow! Just do it! Yeah, I wanted to do, okay, 100 is enough. That's about the speed I do. Oh, hang on, this actually worked much better than I was expecting. It's not sporty, but it's not bad. It's not one of those where you go like, haha, look at this, oh, shh. I always do the spin bads. And this one just worked marvelously. Actually, that's a good test bend, because that bend is very deceiving. It's way tighter than it looks, because it starts off really wide and it tightens through the exits. And you can't see the exit, so I always do that poorly. And this one was one of the scariest bikes to do that on, because I was thinking, oh, I'm going to go straight or I'm going to just drop it. But at the end of the day, it worked. It just did the thing it was supposed to do. And that scary part is because it is very... It's stable, but it's also very light on entry, which is a bit odd. I'm not sure how, but it is what it is. It's easy to lean, but when you want it to stop leaning, it will stay there and keep it there stable. You don't have to keep recorrecting or working to keep it turning. But when you turn it, it tends to turn to lean a bit more than you want. At least until you're used to it, because now I'm used to it and now it's just fine. Now I can do just trajectories the way I want it. And it works perfectly fine here, much better than I was expecting. I feel much safer and I'm getting used to it, but man, this is nicer than I was expecting. It's not a sports bike, don't get me wrong. An MT-07 is going to be miles better than this, obviously, okay? But I was honestly expecting this to be really bad, and it's not. It's just a normal bike here. Let's do a quick turnaround, which is what these bikes excel. Look at this. Oh yeah, it works. It actually works. I was not expecting this. So, some highway riding. Well, in highways, you want stability and wind protection. Unfortunately, wind protection is a bit meh. Meaning, at 100 kph, it works fine. 110, you start getting some wind resistance on your shoulders. It's from, I am 1.74 meters tall, which is 5'10", 5'11", something like that. So I'm not very tall, but I'm not very short either. Just normal height. Of course, if you are Dutch, I'm basically a dwarf, but you get my point. And so I'm going to show you on the rearview mirror, there's wind from here up, okay? The helmet strap is flying around and shouldn't. But it's at 110, that's a bit uncomfortable. But if I go up to 120, then it really starts pushing back. And anything over that, it's going to be very uncomfortable. And at that speed, and that car just moved out of the way, so now I feel the whole wind on me. It is quite a lot of force. So I'm actually doing some exercise with my lower back to bend myself forward, or else I will fall off the bike, and grabbing onto the handlebars, or I can just relax my back and I'll just boink. See? I'm just going to relax my back now. Well, not that much now, because there's this car breaking the wind for me. Thanks, I'm going to go into this lane, which is completely unoccupied. So you can also just ride like this and let your arms take the brunt of the force. That's not very smart though. So it does need a little windscreen. Not a big one, but one that's just this tall should be enough. It will work for a short ride, but if you ride more than, say, 20 kilometers on a highway, it's going to be uncomfortable. 30. at higher speeds. At this speed, I wouldn't want to do this every day at this speed. Nah. 100 kph fine, 110 okay. Over that, nah, I would get a windscreen for this. If you only commute in town, perfectly fine for in town, including the in-town speedways. But as soon as you go out of town, you're going to need a windscreen. Wow, that's... see? It's not very nice. On the other hand, stability is simply not an issue at all. It just works. It's perfectly fine. I'm perfectly fine changing lanes, doing turns at any speed. I'm going full throttle now. Not a problem in any way, shape or form. It's just a matter of you just go. You forget you might have an issue with stability on small scooters. This one does not have that. So this is this bike's element, in-town commuting. This is what this bike is made for. These are always made for this. But a tall-wheeled scooter is for what I usually call the urban... the expression works best in Portuguese, okay? The urban off-roads. You know towns? You know how roads are usually, well, I'm going to be nice and just say poor. Not just to not drop a swear word suddenly. And so these tall scooters are best for this kind of urban off-road, where you have to go through pretty huge potholes and dips and bumps and everything like that. Okay, it's for that. For some reason, the Portuguese market hates big-wheeled scooters. Okay, granted, they usually have less space under the seat, but I think it's just a look thing. Okay, we're very used to the kind of small-wheeled scooter look, and we don't like these. Although this has a bit of a mixed design. But these are much better for these kinds of potholes. The suspension will work better because the wheel is bigger. It's exactly like off-road. A 17-inch rim doesn't work in off-road because it's too small and it falls into every hole, while a 21-inch will just glide over holes. It's exactly the same concept here. So these are the urban marauders, let's call it that. And I had the feeling this is a very long bike. I got that feeling from looking at it. So if that is correct, it should work. I should have gone up that. If I am correct, it should work pretty well also on the highway. Let's see. So far, it works perfectly fine. It's a very agile, very comfortable, very easy bike to ride like this in town. I've done a little bit. So we've done a pretty silly test on the test track. This is where this bike has to excel. And excel it actually does. This is a fantastic, if not absolutely perfect commuting bike. And by commuting I mean in-town commuting, not the 100 kilometers of highway type of commuting. I mean this type of commuting. The craziness of traffic. I know what I was doing there, okay? Don't worry, I can see more than the camera shows. This crazy type of commuting, the urban off-road, the potholes, going through traffic like a small eel that's stopped by nothing. The engine, and I have not discussed the engine at all, which is actually good, which means it's just a silent companion that you don't really have to think about it because it just does what you want. So that's the best you can get. That's the best thing, because you really don't have to manage the engine, and it never feels too fast or too slow. It's just perfect. That perfect little in between is just what you need. No more, no less, except that I need fuel. Or at least I will, because this is a big gauge and it's just about as big as your fuel tank, because your fuel tank's like this big. It's only 10 liters. It's a really tiny fuel tank. So this gauge moves a lot. This means I probably have fuel to go to work, but I will not have fuel to come back. Most likely. So for this, it's just an absolute blast of a bike to ride. It's small, it's agile, it's comfortable, it goes fast enough. It's not a speed demon by any chance, but if you roll throttle, maximum throttle, and you really do feel the push, you really have to hang on for a bit. So it really does accelerate nicely, especially at the lower ends, lower speeds. It just shoots forwards in a very satisfying manner. Top speed is a slightly different business. It should have a top speed with 30 horsepower, it should have a top speed of around 150 kph, but the engine is still on the braking phase. It's now exactly 1000 kilometers old, needs that first oil change, where the top speed will increase substantially. But still, it reaches about 110, 120, and it kind of gives up. It keeps accelerating, but slowly, very calmly keeps going up. So, but it's not actually built for that, so that's a bit useless. That's why it's just tuned for town. It's just that. It's not a problem. It's just a design feature. It is designed for in-town commuting. This is about as open road as this is designed to do, and so it actually works very well. If you have a bike if you need a bike for in-town commuting, inner city commuting, this is a fantastic little machine. And by fantastic, I mean absolutely perfect if you consider its low cost, which is just 4,500 euros, which is ridiculous. There are 125s that cost that much. And a 5-year manufacturer's warranty, which is unheard of. So never mind going, oh, this is SYM, it will break down. You have warranty. You have no worries. Okay, granted, if it breaks down, you'll be without the bike for a few days until they repair it, but at least you won't spend any money. And SYM has come a long way in terms of reliability. One, it's not Chinese, it's South Korean. So let's start with that. South Korean, right? Or is it Taiwanese? I think it's South Korean. Off the top of my head, South Korean. One, it's not Chinese. Two, it has always been reliable, and they have improved it by leaps and bounds, because they will obviously always be compared to the bulletproof reliability of the Hondas, Yamahas, Kawasaki's and Suzuki's. So they've been working on that a lot, not only on the quality of the materials, because this bike looks and feels well built with good materials. Everything here looks pretty cool, including this dash part, which just isn't a little piece of plastic cover. This is really stiff. This looks like a car dashboard. This piece looks really expensive. So they've improved massively the quality of the materials and the quality of the build on these latest generation SYMs, and you actually notice it. You put the old SYM GTS, which was their top of the line, next to the new, and the difference is incredible. This one has nothing to do with the old small SYM scooters. It's cheap, but it's damn near a luxury ride. It's awesome. The seat for an in-town commuting works perfectly well. For my commute, about half an hour, perfectly fine. When I come back from work though, after a full day seated at a desk, it is a tad too stiff at the ends of the half an hour, 45-minute run. Just a tad. It's on that, this seat could be a bit softer. Slightly. It's just that. It's a great seat, but it could be improved, to be honest. Again, I find no major fault with this, especially considering the price, but it does have some room for improvement. And then again, to get all those improvements, you'll probably be better off by just buying a SYM GTS. So, because that's what it is. It's more comfortable, better dynamic bike, better wind protection. It's just the little nitpicks that this one just falls short of. That's what the big scooters are for. Okay, so it's not criticism. It's just that this isn't built for that, and you're not paying for that. You're paying for a fantastic bike to go there, into the shopping mall, to go there, right there, not here, right there in the city. For that, you just can't go wrong with this one. Cager out.